You're listening to Music Tectonics.
Welcome back to Music Tectonics, where we go beneath the surface of music and tech, where we think B2B music tech is hot, where we cringe when LinkedIn posts start looking more like Facebook, and where we look forward to music and tech conferences as much as college kids going to their first music festival. I'm your host. I'm Dmitri Vietze. I'm also the CEO and founder of Rock, Paper, Scissors. We are a music tech PR firm. And as you know, we've got the Music Tectonics conference coming up, and we're bringing you some of our speakers and sponsors and partners into the podcast so you can get a sense of what's going to be happening there. And I'm excited today because I've got our colleague and buddy, Darryl Ballantyne. He's the CEO and founder of LyricFind's. Darryl, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. Thanks for having me on.
How's Toronto today?
It's a beautiful day, actually. It's like our last our last gasp of niceness before a cold, miserable winter.
Well, I'm glad you get a chance to enjoy that. I'm sure you'll get lots of work done this winter as well. So, Darryl, you've been in the music tech game for, 17 some years. You started LyricFind back in 2004 and grew it to be what it is today, the most ubiquitous B2B lyrics provider of the industry. And since you're very present at all the music industry conferences, I'm pretty sure 99% of our listeners already know who you are. So for today's episode, I was hoping maybe we could talk about a variety of topics that'll probably come up at the Music Tectonics conference coming up October 26th through 28th and get your perspective on them. Are you game?
Absolutely. Bring it on.
All right. I'm just going to kick right in. Let's start with social video. We're going to have a couple of sessions. We've got folks from TikTok and Triller, and I'm sure it'll come up in other sessions. What do you think about the role social video is playing in the music industry these days?
I think social video is becoming one of the biggest hit-making machines that's available in the industry right now. When you think about videos on those platforms that become viral and become like the next sensation, that's what's breaking a lot of music hits now. And when it's short-form videos like that, it really just feeds into the cycle of short attention spans that we are all stuck with right now. So it certainly caters to that type of experience. So it's one of the great discovery platforms that exist now.
Yeah. One of the things that we're seeing from some work we've done with Chartmetric is that music on the social video platforms are coming from more diverse origins. And that's been happening for a while with digital music. But this year, it seems like there's been another increase in that diversity. Music listening and sharing is becoming more and more borderless. We're going to do a session on that with Chartmetric and TikTok and some labels. But that must be influencing your work with lyrics as well in terms of this kind of borderless world. How's that impacting you?
Oh, absolutely. We're seeing more and more international presence in everything that we do. And if you think about it, even from the social video aspect, looking back historically, one of the first beginnings of that was Gangnam Style, where that really blew up because of YouTube videos and fan-generated videos. But that's what things like TikTok and Triller and others now are feeding into with social. And that gives the visibility and the opportunity for international music to really reach the rest of the world. So we've seen way more activity and diversity in the listening and lyric experience as well. And that's driven a lot of our growth and our expansion plans, where we're really pushing for licensing around the world. We have publishing representatives on basically every continent. We're missing Antarctica, but maybe one day. But we have people around the world that are clearing those rights. We have content teams that are around the world transcribing those lyrics and building up the database, because that's where huge growth in demand is now. And being able to apply the rights and the lyrics to it, and then pair that with lyric translations as well, it enables people around the world to really understand international music, and it enables people to understand other cultures as well. So we think that is extremely important, not only because of the trends in music consumption, but also just in bringing the world together. It's it's so important, and probably now more than ever, to have an understanding and appreciation of other cultures around the world, and doing that through music and through lyrics just makes that experience so much better.
Well, as you were talking, it made me have a thought, like one of the biggest challenges of a global music marketplace where music could be shared across national borders was, the physical technology that music was recorded and distributed on. That is gone for the most part, and so you have this easier exchange. And I think that's one of the reasons why social video has become such a borderless platform, is because it doesn't even have to address the same types of things that a download service does. Now that's a whole other complex issue we could get into, but there's still this linguistic barrier. And you're right in terms of language, that language difference across, appreciation of music from different parts of the world. You sit at the center of that. And so it's really interesting to think about that translation issue, or even just having the lyrics so people can explore and understand them and get that kind of cultural context that goes beyond just the modes and the rhythms. That really is interesting to see where that translation and just the availability of lyrics will lead to, given that we now have this ability to flow music across borders.
Yeah, and if you think about the way that the global industry is set up from a hits perspective too, it's something that for us in North America, we don't necessarily think about as much as the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
The world's hit music is still predominantly English, and when you go around the world, you see a lot of the same songs. Taylor Swift is huge everywhere. Drake is huge everywhere, but not everywhere understands what they're saying. And we're lucky to be English speakers in a world where popular music is predominantly English. Other people are not, and they need that level of understanding to connect with it, rather than just, frankly, mindlessly singing along with it and mouthing along, not knowing what the meaning is.
Right.
I think if we put ourselves in the shoes of non-English speakers and imagine what would we feel like if every hit song and every major song that was played globally was like Gangnam Style or Despacito, or things that were non-English and not in a language that we would necessarily understand. I mean, a lot of your listeners may understand Spanish more than I do, but it creates a disconnect between the listener and the culture, and it's really, in a way a system of marginalizing people. And if we can help them to understand and connect with the music more, that creates a much more intimate connection between listener and fan.
Mm-hmm.
Opens up a whole bunch of new opportunities for artists because of that.
Right.
And it creates a whole bunch of opportunities for those of us who are English speakers to really connect with international music as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about the democratization of music use and music sharing as a result of social video is kind of interesting. It's like, if you are a user of one of these social video platforms and you want to step across cultural boundaries, you don't have to worry about, or I shouldn't say worry, you're not really blocked by the traditional music discovery that used to take place on commercial radio or non-commercial radio, where, you're kind of at the limits of whatever your curator, your DJ, or your program director on a commercial radio station is offering you. Now you have access to everything, and you're dancing to it, and you're lip syncing to it, or you're showing your family or your pets, or you're doing stunts or skits or whatever it is. So it's really interesting to see that those global sources of music are, with the gatekeepers kind of gone, they're just kind of naturally, organically showing up.
Yeah, if you look at what are the top songs on a social video site based on pure consumption, there's going to be a huge influence from large population areas like India or China or places like that we're not used to seeing. And in some respects, we still do obviously have gatekeepers where those services will filter towards popularity in your country or in your language or that, but the capability is there to really open it up to pure global popularity and expose people to a lot of other international music that they wouldn't otherwise hear.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think about the fact that social video really took off in another part of the world, and to think about, well, what else is happening in other parts of the world that will make its way to Europe and America, make it west. Last year, one of the most striking takeaways at the Music Tectonics conference was Mark Mulligan's keynote, where he said that monetizing fandom will be the next big revenue stream for music, and that it's already happening in Asia. And we see it a lot now with gaming, and the music industry is becoming more exposed to it with things like Twitch, because there are these purchasable digital goods and experiences that kind of upgrade your identity and experience within a Twitch feed. But it hasn't really taken full hold in the Western music markets. I'm curious about your thoughts on this, on Mark's prediction. Are there, are there opportunities to integrate lyrics into that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think virtual goods, especially in North America, are a really big untapped market relative to the rest of the world. You've got whether it's stickers or emojis or things like lyric snippets or lyric sheets, especially in a music focused area of a social network, it's something that has a huge potential to boost the market and boost, in the case of lyrics, revenues for songwriters and take advantage of that. There's the monetization of things like virtual goods obviously is it's an incredible margin for the people that are providing it, and that includes the rights holders. And I think that when you look at a social video service, again, to just for whatever, we continue to go back to that, but it's such a huge part of the industry right now. You've got people who are trying to record their own version of whatever the latest viral song it is. They need the lyrics to do that and make sure that they get it right, lest they be incessantly mocked by all of their friends and other people and enemies, I guess, on the network. So, why not have an opportunity to buy a copy of the lyrics of whatever viral video you're watching as a virtual good, so that you can record yours and get it right? Why not be able to send that to a friend? Use that in all social media, sharing it, sending it to friends, having lyric stickers, things like that in messaging apps and others. Look, there's a lot of possibilities there that really have a great market potential and very low risk as well. It'd be effectively found money for everybody involved.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. And we have a couple of panels at the conference that'll kind of get into that, mostly on the futurist front, like where is this going to go? All right, I'm going to change gears. As always, we'll have a music tech investor panel at Music Tectonics. And this year, we're doing our first music tech startup pitch competition. It's called Swim with the Narwhals. It's a differentiator from Shark Tank. It's not quite as high pressure and evil. But we do have judges from Union Square Ventures, which invested in Splice, SoundCloud, Kickstarter, Twitter, So Far Sounds. We've got some, Zach Katz is coming back from Raised in Space, NWA founding member and tech investor Arabian Prince. So those judges will be able to give the 5 startups that make it into the competition some feedback on the spot. But you've gone through this. What's your sense about the current appetite for music tech investment right now?
Yeah, I think realistically, a lot of music tech investment, the appetite hasn't changed a lot over the last while, with maybe a few exceptions, because when you're dealing with an industry that requires a lot of rights and has rights issues, obviously, it's very difficult to grow a large scale successful business. And you look uh, at VC funds, and they're looking for they're looking for a unicorn. And realistically, who is the next unicorn in the music business? And I'm not sure that there is one on the horizon. So it makes investing very difficult in this industry as a result. Uh, so I think it's tough. There's some notable exceptions. Mandolin just announced a $5 million seed round in live streaming, which it obviously is having a revival through COVID right now, and a 5 million seed. They're not even calling it a Series A, is super impressive that they've been able to do that. But in a lot of music tech businesses, you're either dealing with rights or you're selling to the stereotypical starving artist who doesn't have a lot of money. So it's very hard to scale those businesses in either scenario. So I think it's difficult. I think there's a lot of cool things that could be done, but scaling it in the industry is very hard, and thus it tends to turn off a lot of investors. When you talk to a lot of VCs and you're in music, and I hear it from startups a lot, that you say, "Oh no, we don't touch music." Uh, there, the streaming side of it is dominated by a few big players, and nobody's interested in competing with them or funding a competitor for them. And a lot of the time, it's very difficult to get rights for something that is different than that, and it turns off a lot of investors, and ideas die before they have a chance.
Yeah, it's interesting to think. I mean, I think that was what, there's a whole phase of people who wanted to kind of compete in the streaming side and raise money around that, and that happened a little bit, and then I think you're right that investors lost appetite to play the kind of the, I don't know, it reminds me of one of those like weapons deterrence type wars where you're building up as much as possible. You have to have a huge bank to play that game. But you're right. You saw Mandolin, Caffeine, the kind of rap battle and esports live streaming thing raised $113 million. So there's stuff happening, but it is more particular. And it usually has a bit of a different angle on it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, the other thing is people are always looking to find out, okay, so who's a music tech investment company we can go for? And there aren't very many of those.
I think from an investment perspective, like a lot of music tech startups should be looking for strategic investors. Look for people in the industry who can benefit from what you're doing and who are very complementary, and target people as a strategic investor that is has a vested interest in seeing you succeed for their own good, regardless of your profitability. And there may be a lot more opportunities there than through traditional VC.
Are you talking about record labels?
Record labels are certainly part of it. I know that a bunch of them have built up investment arms, and that's amazing. Like they're obviously at the forefront of most music innovation, regardless of whether they like it or not, because they're the ones who own the content. But there's opportunities for streaming services. There may be a feature or there may be content that would be really useful for them to have that they don't want to build on their own. PROs or other rights management companies could. There's always improvements that can be made there, and there's other parts of the industry outside of rights as well that you may be able to build a nice business out of it, but it might not be VC unicorn scale. So I think that there needs to be more of a shift towards people looking at strategic investors in the space because they're more likely to have something that works.
Well, and we've certainly seen the streaming services acquiring, if not investing, in some companies. On the creator side, Spotify's snapped up some companies in kind of marketplaces for bringing producers together, podcasters together, all that kind of stuff. So that's a good point. And then on the live side, I mean, unfortunately, if they didn't invest before this pandemic, I don't know that they've got necessarily the bank accounts to do those investments now, but it'll be interesting to see how the ticketing companies, the large promotion companies, all those folks that are, even the talent and booking agents, the larger agents, how they will pivot with some tech investment around, social distancing requirements and live streaming and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, live streaming is certainly an area that has its moment now to really make its presence known to the general public. Like, it was something where you look at a company like Stage It that has a great platform and it is a really good opportunity for artists, but it kind of floated along, never getting the true exposure that it deserved, and then COVID hit, and now they've been able to be hugely successful and have huge growth in this period. And the more that they can get a live concert experience like that into and embedded into the psyche of the general public, as this is something that is cool and is fun for me to do, then when you can go back to live shows in 2035 or whenever that ends up being, then it's there and it's established and it becomes a normal thing to do. So this is the chance for that, and this is something where a company can, if they can break through to that level, they have true long-term sustainability, and like the live streaming platforms can be extremely economical for artists. It's way cheaper than going on tour.
Yeah.
It's great for one-offs or things like that as well, where they want to just do one particular show and not have to have a huge production around it, or more intimate shows. Look, there's so many possibilities there. It just needs to be normalized, and this is the time for that to happen.
We did a bunch of podcasts on live streaming and platforms early on in the pandemic. And, prior to that, it seemed like live streaming was kind of like a stepchild of the music industry. There's a couple areas. I would say live streaming and mixed reality, both were kind of like stepchildren of the music industry, just because there was some great innovative ideas around it, but they never really got treated fully like part of the system and part of the family of things that you do. Do you think live streaming's here to stay? If we can get this this pandemic under control and get back to in real life concerts, do you think live streaming will stick around?
I really hope so. I don't think it replaces a true live experience, but it can give you an opportunity to get much more up close and personal with artists than you would ever be able to do if you're seeing a live stream of them from really like right up on the stage. It creates way more accessibility geographically. Look, there's lots of people who live in areas that artists will never tour to, and as people flee the cities during the pandemic right now, that's only increasing. So there's a whole unserved market there of fans that can never really get to see their favorite bands live, or even bands that aren't their favorites. They have no options for it. So it creates an opportunity for them to get a lot closer to that, and it creates an opportunity for the bands to serve those people, and to have an economical way of generating income off of those people. You're not going to go and tour the Northwest Territories or Yukon or something like that. Like, it just doesn't happen really much. But yeah, there's people there. There's people everywhere, and the live streaming platforms give people the opportunity to reach those, and it creates an opportunity to create a more immersive live experience too. Not even just looking at like being up close and personal and having that close video, but there's opportunities for two-way communication. You can have even like a request of what's going to be next on the set list, for example, driven by the people on the live stream. Stage it has tipping built in and things like that open up a whole lot of possibilities. Even from the lyrics perspective, if you can show the lyrics for the songs being performed, that people then at home can follow along and sing along and have a much more immersive experience. And if they're international, show the translation with it as well and have them be able to customize. I'm in France listening to it, show me the French translation. I'm in China, show me the Mandarin translation, and create those experiences and those connections and that revenue stream for those artists.
Hey, I'm glad you keep bringing up Stage It because they're actually a Supernova sponsor of Music Tectonics. Their CEO, Stephen White, will be at the conference. We're doing a live streaming panel. There's a Stage It artist, Cy Smith, who will be there, who we can get a perspective from an artist on that. Kelly Richards is moderating that panel, and Matthew Adele from onnow.tv will be there. It's a kind of like we've had Matt on the podcast. He's it's like a TV guide for any kind of live streams. So that'll be cool.
Those are all wonderful people.
Yeah. Folks that we meet up at, with at these conferences. So it's great that we're going to get to be all together at Music Tectonics. We've seen a ton of growth in some other verticals. One I would say is the fitness space in terms of music. Obviously, like you said, people are going out of town. People are also buying fitness equipment and they're working out at home. And from spin cycle bikes to smart mirrors to musical punching bags, literally there's a couple of companies that for punching bags that have in rowing that all have music, and gaming for that matter too. Gaming and music continues to grow as a nice pairing. So we've got these verticals that are kind of like, music just makes all the difference there. What do you see as the special needs to integrate music into these applications in gaming and fitness?
Can I get a punching bag that's personalized with like maybe my least favorite politician on it or
Yeah.
something? That has specific audio. Like there's got to be an opportunity there.
Well, would that be a Canadian politician or an American one?
An American one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not hard to figure that out. I'm outside the U.S., therefore you can know what the rest of my views are.
All right.
Yeah. There's huge uses and opportunities for music in those areas. Obviously, like a company like Peloton has been making great use of music in the fitness area. Gaming has always played in the music space as well. But one of the things that I think is super important in both of those that and for any vertical that is outside sort of pure music is being able to understand and evaluate appropriate music more. Playlisting, recommendations, musical analysis, and that. And obviously, you look at like fitness, you're going to want to find music that feeds the right energy, that has the right BPM, that has and maybe build up to a point. So you need to analyze the music a lot more than a traditional streaming service would, for example. And you want to build up the beats, the energy, and the emotion, and everything else to tie along with the goal of the fitness session, or also of the game, to whether it's setting the mood. It's like with gaming, for example, it can be similar to music supervision, obviously, where you're trying to set the mood through the music. But you want to make sure as well that the content that you're choosing and the music that you're choosing isn't going to piss anybody off or offend people. So you take, for example, one of the projects that we've been working on is a product called Lyric IQ, and Lyric IQ is analysis of the content of music based on the lyrics. So we're looking at emotional constructs within the lyrics to quantitatively uh, analyze what is the level of anger in this, what is the level of happiness, sadness, and factors like that. What is the overall positive or negative sentiment? So being able to look at those and say, okay, a song like Pumped Up Kicks that sounds like it's a happy, fun song and is a bit more upbeat. Well, it's actually about a school shooting, so it's not. It's an angry song, and it's maybe not the right song for your workout or for your game. And looking at other content filtration that is uh, much more than just looking at, does this lyric say shit in it, right? Like, it's the profanity filter is outdated. There are so many different things that people want uh, to either prioritize or deprioritize in music based on who their audience is. And when you've got a general audience, whether that's in a a, a fitness scenario, a gaming scenario, in-store music, advertising, or things like that, you want to make sure that the music that you're using isn't going to offend people because there is an offensive religious reference in it, or there is references to drugs or violence or sex or things that you might not even recognize are what this is. Something that is maybe sensitive content, and maybe we don't want to be using this music in our service because we want to play it safe on here. It's not when it's a push scenario where you're picking the music for everybody to listen to. There's a lot of things you may want to filter out. Politics, songs that reference various politicians or issues or things like that. So part of Lyric IQ is content filters designed to tell you, what is the rating of violence or sex or regular profanity or gambling, or we have 23 different categories that we're rating music on based on the content of the lyrics. So when you take that information and pair that with additional musical analysis like beats per minute and genre, and that, you're able to get much more effective playlisting for a fitness application or a game or other verticals where they're not necessarily interested in spending a ton of time evaluating music, nor should they be. Right? It's not their core. It's something that complements the experience.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting to think about. As your kind of evaluation tools using lyrics have become more complex, it really brings some new use cases for lyrics that are beyond just presenting the lyrics, but really become integral into the curation and choices and ultimately the experience, because that's really what it is in fitness and gaming, is what experience are you creating for users. It'll be interesting to see where that goes with how much you could do. There's been so much done and talked about in the music industry with AI and machine learning around music discovery and music matching and all that kind of stuff. And it'll be interesting as the lyrics side continues to get adopted for additional context.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great music analysis out there that's based on the audio and how a song sounds. We're the only ones that have done analysis based on the content of the lyrics and what the song is actually about on a large scale. And it's kind of the missing piece of what is the overall picture of this music and this piece of music, and do we want to use it in our service or not, and is it going to fit our goals and objectives for music in our service, whatever that service may be.
Well, this is so fun Darryl, because you're clearly a fan of the industry. If it involves lyrics, you can talk about it. But it also, there's so many other things that we've been talking about that don't necessarily have to do with lyrics, but just because you're part of the kind of the scene, you're watching all these other pieces come together and understand the nuance of that. So this has been a blast. But before we wrap up, are there other companies in the music tech scene that you're keeping an eye on? Anything we haven't talked about?
There's a few. I mean, sometimes companies, sometimes verticals. Obviously, I'm keenly interested in the live streaming space and the long term sustainability of that. I really hope that works out and plays out well. I'm interested to see. We talked a little bit about VR and things like that. Melody VR and their acquisition of Napster and Melody VR being able to use the platform of Napster to get their technology out to a lot of people. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch. They've got some really cool stuff that they can do, and it's kind of begging for an audience. And now they've acquired that. Also, another thing along the vein of live streaming that has its opportunity and its moment now in a COVID world to prove its case is remote collaboration tools for music creation. And you've got companies like Note Tracks or Audio Bridge that are working really hard to crack that nut and have a viable tool for people to remotely collaborate and create music. And if they can get that working really well, and they're really on their way to being able to do that, then that's something that can stick around long term and become a core part of the music creation process, and have those companies do really well and be long term sustainable and collaborate across huge geographic differences. Those types of software packages can change the way music is created long term, and open up so many more possibilities. And you tie it back into what we were talking about with borderless music and international language and culture, and those types of tools would go a long way to really accelerating that as well, to have those cross-cultural collaborations and be able to create them, which without them are very, very difficult from a financial perspective. So there's a lot of great globalization aspects and technology plays out there for new technology that I'm really fascinated in seeing how they play out, and rooting for them to be super successful.
There's so much interesting stuff, and it's so weird. There's so many challenges of this pandemic and lockdown and sheltered home stuff, but there's also these interesting opportunities that are pushing so many things forward. We didn't get into the mixed reality VR stuff as much. You mentioned Melody VR, who spoke at the conference last year. We do have a mixed reality session in music. We've got one of the co-founders of Beat Saber, the CEO of Tribe XR, which is a DJ mixed reality thing. We were talking about gaming. We've got the head of music at Roblox. We've got somebody, Michelle Broussard from Activision, who's been heavily involved with music, going back to the Guitar Hero days, but is still putting out games. And so a lot of this stuff comes together at the Music Tectonics conference. I'm curious to ask you, Darryl, what are you hoping to get out of the conference?
I mean, I think one of the biggest things is kind of accelerating the stuff that we've talked about, and getting to know all the new companies that are out there that we don't necessarily hear about on TechCrunch or Music Business Worldwide or Musicality or places like that. I mean, last year at Music Tectonics, we were able to meet so many great new startups that were there and learn about what they're doing, and how we can help, whether it's through a lyric license or just through introducing them to the right person and trying to help build the industry. That was one of the great things about the conference last year, and I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of those people again this year. And of course, seeing all the people that I haven't gotten to see in 7 months and counting. So having those connections and those conversations with people. As you mentioned off the top of the show, that I'm usually at a lot of conferences, so I'm clearly going through withdrawal symptoms from that.
Me too.
I haven't been on a plane in 7 months, and so it's
that human connection.
My wife is wondering why I'm still around. Like, why haven't I left for a bit? But
there's no place to go.
There's no place to go, and get used to it.
Darryl, we met at music industry conferences. I think we met at a South by once. I actually interviewed you in somebody else's podcast or booth, and then we met at SF Music Tech. Ted Cohen reintroduced us when we started working together on PR and stuff, and so I'm the same as you. And I want you to know, Darryl, and everyone that's listening, we're working really hard at Music Tectonics, the conference, to make it feel more like a real in-person conference. There's been so much that happened since the pandemic, which are, listening to people talk on Zooms, and if you're lucky, you get to chat and get a question in. It's really hard to network. And the conference technology we're using actually allows for one-to-one videos. There's a networking room where every panel will be 45 minutes, and then there'll be 15 minutes of networking throughout the 2 main days of the conference. So you'll get to do these one-to-one video chats. And we're also going to have an opening and closing party in an avatar-based world where you have audio on, spatial audio. So as you see an avatar with somebody's name you recognize, you can run over to them. Hey, Darryl, let's talk, and you can go grab a chair and have a private chat with their avatar. Anyway, Darryl,
I'm really looking forward to trying that out. By the way, I haven't done that in any of the other conferences, like the online events.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I miss the most about in-person conferences, is being able to just have those one-on-one random conversations. So I really hope that your platform that you're using works really, really well, because that would be amazing, and it would be a huge difference.
Well, we've got 2 platforms. The opening and closing party are this avatar thing, and then the main conference is more of like a video chat. But you can video chat with anybody in the conference. You just send them a text through the platform. Plus, there's these speed networking chat roulette style things where you just get 5 minutes on the clock with somebody, and if you're bored, you just leave. If you're into it, you can then chat with them directly and set up another video chat within the conference platform. Anyway, Darryl, this has been a blast. I love talking with you about all this stuff. It's so much fun. And I'm really excited you're going to be at the conference meeting with folks. You'll have a booth. You'll be presenting on new revenue streams. It's going to be great.
I'll have an avatar.
You'll have an avatar. We'll see what hairstyle you can pick and go from there.
Yeah. We'll see. COVID hair all the way.
Well, it's been great having you on the podcast. Thanks for joining. I'll see you in a couple of weeks at the conference.
Thanks so much for having me on, Dmitri. Always a pleasure.
Likewise. And thank you for listening to the podcast. Go over to musictectonics.com. If you hurry up right when this publishes, you can still join in to compete to be a part of the startup pitch competition and get feedback from real VCs. So check that out, and also sign up for our newsletter, and you'll get information about our podcast, about the conference, and everything else we do. Hope to see you at the conference. Keep listening.
You're listening to Music Tectonics.